We are on and we are live on Yonkers Voice, and today our guest is Jason Baker, somebody who knows everything about sustainable energy, about the switch, about green energy. We don't hear much about him, but I hear that he's part of the brain and he knows everything we need to know in order to make an informed decision. And that is why he's here today. Jason, tell us a little bit about you so people know who you are.
Jason Baker, I'm Director of Sustainability for the City of Yonkers. I've been in the position for a few years now, and our focus is on trying to ensure that our departments are operating in a way that is mindful of the environment, mindful of our energy use, and that we're helping our communities become more sustainable in their everyday lives as well.
Jason, for those that don't know, explain sustainable energy. What is it? Because most people, at home, energy is energy. I switch the light and the light comes on.
I think the big thing that we have to consider is where that energy is coming from. We've got various supplies of energy from different sources. So what we're aiming to do is transition our energy sources from what are predominantly fossil fuel based to those that are renewable. Wind, solar, hydropower, those are the keys to a future that is a healthier energy future for our country and for those here in the city of Yonkers.
Now, Jason, for most everything that goes around us, there is always a pro and a con. Okay? Making a personal decision, we put things in a balance. What's the good? What's the bad? Do I do it? Okay. Here, for this subject, pros and cons.
Well, there's a lot of pros, and I think the keys to remember here is that this program is about providing you with greater energy choice and competition in the process. So we have currently a system where your only option when you turn on the power to your house is a supply that's chosen for you by the utility. That is a fossil fuel-based supply, predominantly, and it's a rate that's variable, so it fluctuates, goes up and down, but at times where it goes up without notice, and a lot of times we hear from residents that it's unaffordable. We also, through this program, through the CCA, which is a Community Choice Aggregation program, authorized by New York State and by the City Council of Yonkers, we're able to provide a competitive process that results in a fixed rate, a rate that will not go up, that you can expect to see the same rate every month, and that is from a renewable source.
Now,
sorry, just also to add, so you've got the choice and the competition that we're able to achieve here. We also have a rate stability, so your rate won't go up, and most importantly, it's about transitioning, as we talked about before, from fossil fuel-based supply to a renewable-based supply, a renewable source supply, and it'll help us to transition that grid and also create more competition and more demand for renewable energy versus fossil fuels.
Now, a few weeks ago, probably a week and a half ago, Edison actually announced a possibility of a hike on their prices. They are waiting for approval from the state, I believe, for the hike to go on. If that happens, will this one, sustainable energy, be more affordable for us? Because look, if the option is higher,
right,
then it becomes more affordable to me. And because at the end of the day, it's dollars on my pocket. There's a lot of people in Yonkers living with fixed income, and they see this new program as a most cost.
Right. Well, the good news is that if you're on a fixed income, this is the right program for you because you're getting a fixed rate supply. So you don't have to worry about, next month, let's take this month, let's take January, where the rate spiked to 16 cents a kilowatt hour at the end of January. The fixed rate that Yonkers secured for a renewable supply is 8.71 cents. So that's almost double what this fixed rate is for the month of January. Now, we can't predict what Con Ed will do in the future, and that's why when I hear some of the language used that your rates are going to go up. Well, I'm like thinking to myself, how do you know? No one knows. We don't have a crystal ball to predict what Con Ed's variable rate will be at any given time. However, research, we've done our homework, and all indications show that the market, the energy market pricing is expected to continue to rise. As it did in January, we expect that's going to continue to stay relatively high. And if you are enrolled in the Westchester Power Renewable Supply Program, you don't have to worry about your rates going up. You are set and locked in to this 8.71 cents per kilowatt hour for the next 18 months.
Now, I speak with people around, people on the street, we talk about these and other issues. This is the hot issue of the moment. And what most say, Jason, is, okay, if this is such a good program, why don't you let me make that decision from the get-go? Why is the City Hall making it more difficult for me to make that decision? Because lots of seniors, they don't read those mails. Even young people, it goes right in the garbage because they think it's spam. If it's such a good program, why not educate the people and let them choose for themselves?
You know,
because lots of people, they're not necessarily against the program, they're against the process of the program.
I've heard that. Well, I think when you talk about the cons of the program, right? I think the biggest issue is that there's a lot to explain. And when there's a lot to explain, sometimes the wrong information gets circulated. If you threw out your mailer, your letter you received, which by the way, we sent another mailer last year as well. We've been doing outreach on this for over a year now. But if you did throw away that letter and you didn't get the outreach prior to that, you might be hearing information from your neighbor or somebody else who maybe didn't get the facts right. So we currently have, to answer your question, we already have a system where you're opted in. So, as I said before, when you turn on the power, you open up an electricity account. Your only option, you are opted into a default rate that was passed on to you by Con Ed. So Con Ed goes out, they purchase a supply, and they pass that cost on to you. Your only option at that point is to opt out. And opt out on your own and find an ESCO. And I've heard horror stories of folks who have been enrolled into an ESCO that have had their energy rates skyrocket or change unexpectedly, and they're locked in to that program. They can't switch out. The reason why we have to do an opt-out program, well, essentially it's kind of the same structure. Instead, in order to get that bulk rate, that we're able to get the competitive low rate of 8.71 that's fixed, we go out to the market. We go out and hold an auction, a reverse auction, where energy suppliers bid against each other to get the 50,000 plus households that are part of this program. So they're all bidding against each other, going lower and lower on the rate. If we didn't have that process, if we didn't have 50,000 households as part of that program, we would essentially have the same system we have now, where you're on your own trying to get a rate that's never going to be as low a rate as we're able to afford as what you could consider a bulk rate.
Jason, what I'm hearing from you, it's something that I tell often to people. What you say and what I'm hearing are two different things. Okay? I'm going to give you what people are hearing on each. When you tell me something like that, it gives me the inclination that the rates that you were able to acquire was because you were able to secure a certain amount of people in the municipality of Yonkers to sign up for that program. And that becomes available because people will not be able to opt out as easily. There is always a way. You can call the number. If you're not liking it, you can call up later and say, listen, take me out. But people are upset with the process. But it seems like for you to lock into that rate, there had to be some kind of a guarantee of how many people in Yonkers would sign up for it.
Yeah, it's like, if you go,
right?
It's like if you get, correct. If you were to go to Costco and buy in bulk versus if you were to buy one item, it's that kind of an analogy, I suppose. And like I said, decision was already made for you when you turned on the power to your house. You didn't have a choice. You were opted into a program. This essentially, New York State authorizes what's called the Community Choice Aggregation Program, so that instead of the utility make that decision for you. The municipality can engage in a competitive process to change that default to a default that is a competitive fixed rate, where your rates won't go up. You don't have to worry about that month-to-month question about your bill. You are locked in at a fixed rate, and that is also a rate that's renewable, and is helping transition our grid from fossil fuels to a renewable supply.
Well, the point of this interview is not to discourage anyone from signing up or encourage people to opt out. We are all about information. Giving the people the information, make them understand the whys behind the decisions, so that way they can make up their mind, okay, this is the right thing or the wrong thing for me. And we have had interviews like this, people have came, and some misinformation had been given to the people. And you being here today is to give those folks the right information. So, anything else you want to add? Please.
I appreciate this opportunity, first of all, because there has been misinformation. And this has been done. This is a program that's not just in Yonkers. It's in 28 other municipalities in Westchester. The city of Rochester recently did it. And despite the fact that, Yonkers has, say, 50,000 households or so that have been eligible for this program, those municipalities that have opted into this program prior to us, they all joined together because they were smaller, but there's actually more people in that program than there is in our program, and yet the amount of calls we've received have been higher. And it's really due to the fact that we haven't been able to get the information out, or that misinformation or information hasn't been gotten out that is not correct. So this is a great opportunity to be able to provide the correct information. I also want to note that this only affects your power supply. This is not affecting your power delivery, which is still Con Ed. Con Edison will continue to provide your billing. They'll continue to service the grid, our power service. If you have an outage, Con Edison will respond to the outage. This is just the supply, and I think that's another thing that maybe has caused some fear, is that people are concerned that, what's going to happen if there's a power outage? Do I call Westchester Power? No. Con Edison is still delivering your power to you. So you are still a Con Ed customer. This is just changing the supply from a default that was a variable rate, that was spiking, that we've heard lots of complaints about rates going up, which they are right now, to a rate that is fixed, and which you can opt out of at any time. You can switch anytime you'd like. There's no fee. You simply can call. You can send an email, info@sustainablewestchester.org. Just send an email if you want to switch your supply. Put your name, your address, and your request, whether you want to opt out and go back to Con Ed, or you want to switch to there's also a standard rate that Westchester Power offers, which is at 7.287 cents a kilowatt, which is even less than the renewable rate, although it's not a renewable supply, but it's another option available. And you also have the option to switch to an ESCO on your own if that's your decision. So it's more choice than you've ever had before, and I think that competition is a good thing. We should all want competition. We shouldn't want one utility company determining how much we pay and what kind of energy we get. We should want competition. It's good for everybody. It helps drive down pricing, and it helps us to transition away from fossil fuels and toward a renewable energy supply.
I agree with you. Competition is good. That way no one has the monopoly in prices. Now let me read a couple of statements that I have here, and you can elaborate on that. The city says residents have a choice between two energy providers. However, all Con Ed customers were not asked to switch to Sustainable Westchester. Instead, they were automatically enrolled. This begs the question, why were residents asked to opt out of Sustainable Westchester instead of opting into the new energy program?
Right, and as we talked about, the only way we're able to lock in and get energy suppliers to compete for our city's energy supply is to have a large customer base for them to compete for. So if we just have an opt-in system, we're basically sticking with the system we have right now, which is you can opt out of Con Ed and go to an ESCO on your own, but you are now having to become an energy expert and go shop around by yourself and learn about what option is, and unfortunately that doesn't always work out. By the city going out and holding this competitive process, we're able to fully vet these energy suppliers. We're able to get a competitive rate using the purchasing power of over 50,000 households. And that's how we're able to get this competitive rate that at a time when energy prices are rising, you are protected from rate hikes.
What happens if you cannot achieve that threshold of 50,000?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, the rate is locked in regardless. So residents, if you do want to opt out, it's your choice. If you want to switch to the standard supply, that's your choice. If you want to go out on your own and find an ESCO, that's still your choice. You have more choice now than you've ever had.
Okay. Jason, as you know, we are live on Yonkers Voice and people are engaged and asking questions. This is a question from Nicole Hines. Yeah, and you received 2 different bills and end up paying more than you were already paying Con Edison. Is that true?
No, you'll still receive 1 bill from Con Edison.
That's it?
That's it. 1 bill. The only thing you'll notice different is that the energy supplier will say Constellation. That's the supplier that was selected through this competitive process.
So there is no 2 bills, so it's another misconception that the folks are having, but being cleared out by Jason, it's 1 bill. You might get a, description of who is the provider, but you get 1 bill.
1 bill.
People are always skeptical that they will be taken advantage of.
Understood.
What security do residents have knowing that this is not the case with Sustainable Westchester?
Yeah, that's a huge concern, and that's part of the reason why we went ahead with this program and why 28 other municipalities have done the same. Because people are getting taken advantage of by ESCOs. There's something called ESCO slamming that people have heard of. Through this process, the city is fully vetting these companies, and we're creating competition. So residents can rest assured that this is a process that has been authorized by the state, it's been authorized by the city council, and it's a process that is open and competitive. And all the vetting is done by the city. You don't have to go out on your own and worry about having to do that by yourself.
Guys, as always, I have to put my disclaimer, my Yonkers Voice disclaimer, so it's clear to everyone. Our purpose is to inform you, to let you know what's going on, give you the correct information. I'm not here to ask questions that I have. I'm here to provide you with experts, people that know what they're talking about, so they can answer your questions. So if you have any question, please write it down on the thread, and we will ask Jason. We don't endorse or oppose any political party, any political philosophy. We are just here to give you the platform where you can ask questions that you feel are important to you. Now,
if I can say it too, it's not my intention to persuade you one way or another either. It's my intention to provide you with the facts and the information so that you can make an informed decision.
exactly. Now, this comes from Hector Santiago. He says, not sure if I missed it, but was there a reason the information was sent out so late? What were the means of informing the public regarding this process?
Sure, thanks Hector. We actually went through this process starting at the end the initial discussion on this started years ago, but we started to discuss this with the City Council at the end of 2020. In 2021, early winter 21, the City Council began having public discussion on this issue. There was several environmental committee meetings that were publicly televised. And actually at that point, the City Council, when we first went to them, to their credit, they said, listen, before we even consider this, go back out and do more public outreach so that we can make sure people understand what this is. Not to mention, there's also the requirement by the Public Service Commission that we hold a certain amount of public outreach prior to this program launching. So what do? We held over 40 community information sessions, virtual and in person. We sent a mailer out, a citywide mailer that went out last year. We did emails, direct emails through our various communication email platforms, social media. We did press. There was a press conference held last spring, I believe. And we also have, I believe there was a public hearing as part of the council approval process. we've done just about everything we can to try and get the information to residents. In addition to that most recent mailing, it's not always easy to get information out. In fact, interestingly enough, despite the city's efforts to put out the information to the media, you know, the first article I saw in it was an opinion piece, not a factual piece that the city had transmitted with all the correct information. It was an opinion piece that I saw that was totally misleading. So we've done everything we can to try and get the information out. There's always more we can do, and we're continuing to do more. We have every week, multiple times a week, we have Sustainable Westchester holding community information sessions with the residents. Anybody can log on to them. They're virtual. You can find out more at sustainablewestchester.org, and there's a list of those events that you can attend. The city has also been putting out information on those events, and of course, we're taking calls and answering questions whenever they come about.
Well, Jason, if you really want people to know what's going on, places like, I have to plug Yonkers Voice in, okay? Places that you need to go, it's places where the people are. Yonkers Voice, and these other platforms that have a huge follower, and most people nowadays, probably even you, are always on social media. There is exceptions, like somebody I know. They're not on Facebook, surprised me, but the majority are on social media. And if you want to propagate programs, if you want the people of Yonkers to know, perhaps you want to consider that, because look, there is other social media platforms beside the City Hall, so reach them out to them, okay? Now, let's say we are in March, and I received my first bill. I got it. Open it. Will I see something good in that bill? Will I see an increase? What do you think I will see?
Well, I can tell you what you will see if you are enrolled in the Westchester Power program, whether it's the renewable or the standard rate. You will see a supply rate of either 8.71 cents per kilowatt hour for the renewable, or if you choose the standard, it'll be 7.287 cents per kilowatt hour. That won't change, I can guarantee that. We can't predict what Con-Ed's, what the supply rates that they go to the market for will be, because they're variable, they change. So anyone that says, you know, your rates are going to go up, it's just factually incorrect, because nobody knows what those variable rates will be in the future. But as I mentioned, we can look at what the most current rate was for the end of January with the Con-Ed variable supply rate, and it was at 16 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a lot higher. That's about almost double the renewable rate. So we're seeing high Con-Ed rates. First, the supply, as you mentioned, they've also saw a rate increase. I believe that's more for the delivery than the supply, but we can expect, based on the market, that rates will stay high. But if at any time we see a dip, and you know, residents feel that they can do better with the Con-Ed variable supply rate, that's more their speed, you can switch at any time. You can there's no fee to do it. As I mentioned, there's many ways in which you can switch. It's a simple process. And so essentially, this program is a cap on your rate going up. It will not go up if you are with the Westchester Power rate. And if you see that the utility rates are dropping significantly, in fact, I believe rates are posted for the Con-Ed rates. Sustainable Westchester keeps those rates up to date, so you can check every month what the Con-Ed rate is. You're welcome to switch at any time. You can go switch out, switch back in. It's a fluid process, and that's the beauty of the program, is that you now have this amazing choice that you didn't have prior.
That was my next question. I see the bill, was not what I expected. Can I opt out? Can you just answer it? Well, I changed my mind again, because you know, I'm one of those guys that changes mind every, you know, depending on the factors around me. Oh, I changed my mind. I want to get back in.
Right.
I want to get back out. There is no blocks. You know, once you out, you out. Once you win, you win. You can swap as often as you want.
You can opt in and out at any time.
Okay. Now, Ethan Vasquez says, because the price is based on the number of people enrolled. Is that correct? Because the negotiation already happened, for what I'm understanding, and regardless of how many people opt out, the rate's still the same,
That's right.
correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the rate won't change based on how many people opt out. It's when, as I said, the city went to an auction. We held a reverse auction back in September, and those companies those energy companies that bid in the reverse auction provided their best pricing, and that pricing is locked in.
So competition is good. Competition brings the quality of the service up and sometimes reduces the price of the product. Correct?
Yes.
In the future, because of this new sustainable energy in Westchester, do you think that maybe Con Edison will bring the prices down? Because now they're in a competitive world, you know. Hey, we're competing. They're giving it to the customers for 7 cents or 8 cents, whatever. We give it to the client for 19 cents. We need to go back.
It's interesting because the supply, as we've discussed, Con Ed is passing through that cost. Con Ed's really a power delivery company. Their focus is on maintaining the power lines, making sure that the supply that we purchase gets to your house. So that's their main focus. But competition is always good. We should want competition, regardless of whether it's power or shopping, whatever it might be. And I think that the most important thing of this all is that through this process, we're able to green our electricity grid, which is absolutely necessary. It's part of achieving our climate goals. We're facing increasing threats from climate change, and most importantly, it affects those who are of lower income, who don't have the means to prepare and tend to be more affected by these impacts. But it's also those who maybe are prone to flooding, as we've seen in Yonkers. We've had terrible floods recently. And these events are more frequent and they're more severe. So transitioning our energy supply to renewable sources is going to be a significant part of how we address climate change. And so this is a great way for residents to take action because you don't have to do anything. The work's been done. You can keep your renewable energy supply rate. And if you really don't want to participate in that, it's a simple process. You just send an email or make a phone call or go online, and you can opt out.
Now, Jason, I don't know if you remember, a few years ago we had problems with Con Edison due to blackouts, acts of God, power went down. How would you deal with these things going forward to do that opt-out? Will they have to call Con Edison if there is a problem? Who's responsible for maintaining the grid? How does that work? Because now you have two different...
There's no change at all. The delivery is still Con Edison. Con Edison will continue to maintain the power lines, to respond to power outages, customer service. You call Con Edison, your billing will still be from Con Edison. This is just the supply that changes. It's really minimal impact. And really, we've seen historically with this Westchester Power Program, which has been around since 2016, the variable rate will go up, it'll go down. The Westchester Power rate will stay fixed. And over time, it just about evens out. There's really not much of a change, whether it's a reduction in your bill or an increase. It's really very minimal. So the big factor here is that we're able to start to transition our electricity supply and our energy supply from fossil fuels to renewables.
Which was something that most people were looking for anyway.
Yes.
With the climate change, things, the future basically is here. So probably in a few years from now, that option will not be given to us. This is it, no?
This is it, and the other thing beyond the other benefit here that I want to emphasize is that you do have protection against your rates going up. So you have that sense of comfort knowing that my rate's not going to spike as it did most recently in January.
Well, is there anything else that we need to tell the people of Yonkers? Because this is important. Because most of the friction that was going on the streets of Yonkers with the residents of Yonkers is that they felt that this option should be given to them, that the government should not be making an option for them. But the bottom line is, we do not have the information that we need. Today we hear, you hear, and you can give all the information that the people of Yonkers need to have in order understand this program. Is there anything that I didn't ask that I should ask, or something that you want to talk about to clear the minds of the people of Yonkers so they can feel at ease that no one is taking advantage of it, there is no one making billions of dollars because we're moving towards sustainable energy. This is not for this side, it's for you, the people.
Yeah, I think we've gone through it all, but again, no, there is no benefit outside of providing for a more renewable energy supply, fixed rates that won't go up, and energy choice. I mean, that's what this is about. There's no added revenue for the city. This is strictly something that's been done. It's been done in other places before us. We took our time to consider this. As I said, the program first started in 2016. We're the 29th municipality to join. There seems to be a lot of attention focused on Yonkers because we're the third largest city in the state. We're the biggest city to do a program like this. So understandably, there's going to be a lot of attention, but there was also a lot of misinformation. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide the facts, and we're continuing to do outreach. Please attend an information session. If you have questions, you can call Sustainable Westchester, send an email, call our office. We're happy to do everything we can to make sure that you can make an informed decision.
Well, guys, you heard it. You heard it from an expert, not from me, because I know nothing about this stuff, but he does, okay? And when you're making decisions, you should make decisions based on information, what is correct, and not on what other people want you to think is correct. So do your research, call around, make up your mind, but based on correct information to know if this is the right thing for you. So again, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you, Jason, for taking the time.
Thank you.
And just one more question for Jason. Jason, are you sure that no one gave you a fat check so we can...
I'm sure.
Jason is sure. So this is for you guys. This is for us, the people of Yonkers. Energy, sustainable energy is coming to stay. Check it out. If you don't like it, opt out. If you like it, opt back in. Whatever you want to do, it's on you. The information has been given. Get involved, guys, because there is meetings here at the City Hall every week, I believe, council meetings, the information is there. But you need to do your part of the work, seeking the information for those things that are important to you. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much for your time.